Hello, and welcome to LALS 163, the Amazon Cultures and Perspectives. I'm Justin Perez. I am a professor in the Latin American and Latino Studies Department, and I'll be the instructor of this course this quarter, winter 2024. We're going to be meeting on Mondays and Wednesdays from 7:10 to 8:45 p.m. in Engineering 2, room 192. I'll be holding office hours this quarter on Mondays from 2 to 4 p.m. On a drop-in in-person basis in the Merrill Academic Building, room 36, which is my office. So I'm going to go through the different elements of the syllabus in this recording. The goal is, of course, to help students who maybe join after the first day of class to acclimate into the rhythm of the class. It isn't a substitution for the close and careful review of the syllabus, though. So I do encourage you all to download the syllabus, make sure you take some time to look it over, so that way you know what to expect, how we're going to go proceed over the course of our next 10 weeks together. So our class is going to be on the Amazon, and I wanted to start a little bit with just my own relationship as a researcher of and in the Amazon. So I'm a cultural anthropologist, which means that my research is primarily based on long-term embedded, what we call participant observation, among particular communities to understand how people experience different issues on the ground in everyday life, outside of the more abstractive or quantitative ways that we sometimes measure social phenomenon. So I work on HIV/AIDS, but in the Amazon, particularly in the urban centers of the Peruvian Amazon. So I've spent the past decade, several years in Peru, particularly in the cities of the Amazon, studying the effects of HIV/AIDS. So that's where my interest in the region comes from. And my research tries to connect a lot of or brings together a lot of health issues in the Amazon with some of the broader, more typical trends and themes that emerge in the social scientific study of this particular region of the world and the historical study of it. So that's kind of informed my approach to how we think through the Amazon. We're going to be looking at a lot of anthropological research in this class because that's what my training is, and that's kind of my approach to teaching and understanding the region. I'm not going to read the course description, but I encourage you to do so. We have one required text. It's a book by Michael Chepik called Life in Oil, Co-Fund Survival in the Petroleum Fields of Amazonia. And the book, we're going to be reading it in its entirety over the course of the quarter. It's available through the library as an ebook. So if you like to read digitally, you can download the book for free through the library. You can also purchase it either through the Bay Tree Bookstore or through an online retailer like Amazon. We're not going to get to it until the latter half of the course, though. So there's no particular rush, say, to get it next week or by week 2 or 3. We're not going to really get to it until later but do get it. And if you do know that you prefer or you read better with the hard copy, I do encourage you to get the hard copy. So this is a 5-unit course. That means that it should correspond to roughly 150 hours over the quarter. The way that this kind of breaks down in LALS 163 is that we have about 3.25 hours of lecture per week. That's Mondays and Wednesdays. I anticipate around 7 hours of reading and about 4.75 hours of homework. That's not always going to be the case. And that 7 hours of reading isn't really the first pass. Like, I think of that number as including, say, maybe you need to read a text twice, or maybe you like to take notes after you read a text. All of that other time that goes into our reading beyond reading itself. So that's what that 7 hours is going to look like. So do anticipate spending some time, a good chunk of this time, really focusing in on the readings that I've assigned. I've assigned them specifically, and they're all great. So we're going to be getting through them together over the course of the quarter. This is just a final first page thing that kind of just tells you where different parts of the syllabus are. So the learning outcomes, the grading, and then just the weekly schedule happens at the end. Pardon me. I'm not going to read through every course learning outcome right now, but I do encourage you to take a look at it, read them closely now. They might not all make sense, but I believe that by the end of the quarter, after you've finished all of the readings, after you've done the course assignments, after you've collaborated on your final project with your group, you can go back and see, oh, we did every single one of those things. That's kind of the purpose of these learning outcomes or goals. And I encourage you to do that with all of your classes so you can actually see what you've gained and how you've grown and what you've accomplished over the quarter. It's not random or arbitrary. I'm thinking really specifically about what we're assigning, what we're reading, and what we're doing in the class. If you are a Latin American and Latino studies major or minor, the course also meets these learning outcomes for our program. So you can also take a look at those as well. All right, so now what I'm going to break down is the main course requirements. So these are basically the assignments that you're going to be doing over the quarter and how they add up to get to your final grade. So our first assignment is a syllabus quiz. So it's short, it's on Canvas, take it at your own time. You're welcome to consult the syllabus, print out a copy, or have the copy on hand on your screen while you take the Canvas quiz. Just to try to get it done by January 17th. Then we'll have reading checks. So these are going to be due before the start of class on certain days. Particularly, these are days where we're going to be discussing as a class these readings. We're going to be interacting with classmates, thinking in small groups, responding to questions that I pose to everyone. And the idea is that I want everyone to be as prepared as possible for that kind of engagement. And that means making sure that you've done the reading before you come to class. So they're not intended to trip you up. They're not intended to be complex or hard. They're really just intended to make sure that on the days where we're going to be particularly interactive, I really want to make sure that every student has done the reading, at least tried to get through it, because then we'll talk through it in class, of course, and does these quick, brief Canvas assignments. They're really short. They're not intended to take more than 5 to 10 minutes. And for some of them, even that is longer than it'll take. I just need to it's just a way to keep everyone on track together so that we can all make the most out of our in-class sessions. They're not, they're designed to be, you can consult the readings while you complete them on Canvas too, and they're untimed. Okay. Our first kind of major assignment is going to be an individual current event analysis. So over the course of the quarter, I want each and every one of you to develop an expertise around a specific, an ongoing issue that's affecting the region of the Amazon. And you're going to be doing that first by writing a brief essay that analyzes how this particular theme or this issue has unfolded in the region over the past few years. I'm going to give you some suggestions of some issues if you don't have a familiarity with the region already. And of course, you're welcome to explore different themes or issues based on your own interests. Basically, what you'll do is you're going to select 3 media sources. This can be journalistic accounts, it can be news sources, it can be videos on YouTube, and you'll respond to the question, how has this issue evolved and what have been the effects for the Amazonian region? So that will be due Wednesday, January 31st. And that's going to be kind of at the end of the first section of our class. I'll explain how there's three different sections, and I'll go over that when we go through the course schedule. So that's our first main assignment. Our second main assignment is going to be a midterm, and it's a little bit later in the quarter because it's after our second part of 3 parts. And the midterm is going to be an in-class exam on our designated class day and time, Wednesday, February 21st. That's going to cover course readings and lectures from that second part of class. So it's a specific set of readings that we're going to be looking at, and the exam will be about that. It will be open book and open notes, so you will be able to bring copies of the readings to bring your notes to class on the day when you take the exam. The final item of the course is a collaborative current event project. So by the end of January, you'll all have written a short essay about a particular event or issue that's pertinent to the region. Then in that second half of the class, or in that latter third portion of the class, you're either going to extend what you already wrote as a longer project individually, or you'll get together with 1 or 2 other students and collaborate on a project on that issue. So this will take the form of either just a longer paper if you prefer to write, and that's kind of your strength. But if your strength is maybe audiovisual or a podcast, you'll also have the option of collaborating with other students to create an informative video or podcast on this issue. The goal, or what I really want you to do, is not just think about how you're going to explain this issue to me as the professor. Of course, I follow the Amazon, so I already know, but what I really want you to think about and do with this assignment is to create something that you can share beyond the confines of our class. So something that you could send to your friends, you could send to your parents, you could post online and share to inform the public about a particular issue that you had become an expert of, or an expert of over the course of the quarter. You're gonna have one of the hardest things, of course, at UCSC is finding the time to collaborate and plan and work together. But that's really important for me because I think that when we do that, we learn all sorts of new things that we might not have come up with individually. So that means because that's really important, and because I really encourage everyone to try to think about how they can communicate and translate the more complex ideas that we're going to be talking about in our readings and in class more broadly, we're going to dedicate some class time to that kind of collaboration work, to getting together, to touching base with your group mates, to even like actually maybe writing or recording during that class time. So you'll have that time. If your group plans it out really well and is really effective with that time, I think you might not even have to meet outside of class necessarily to get the project done. So that's also going to be occurring over the course of the quarter, some designated class time. So don't get too worried that like working in a group is really hard, because we're really going to be explicit about making the time in class to get that collaboration done. It's broken down, that's fine. This extended collaborative project is broken down over the quarter. I've kind of developed this as a result of some of the hiccups that we've had in previous iterations of this class. But all that to say, we'll start with like, everyone will make an introductory slide that will be shared with everyone in class. So that way you can find people who wrote their midterm paper or wrote their current event analysis on the same issue that you did. So people can share like what their topic was and what they want to work on. So maybe you might find someone who worked on a similar project topic, but wants to do a podcast and you want to do a paper. So it's just a way to kind of show what everyone is thinking about doing. And then you'll have time in class to make connections, touch base, meet new people, and figure out how to proceed with this final collaborative project. Then once you've kind of established a group, and again, everyone is welcome to also, some people just work better alone, and that's fine too. So once you've established what it's going to look like, what your group is, you'll submit a proposal. I'll give examples of what a good proposal looks like, but a proposal is really just kind of a plan to get you to communicate with your group members and figure out how you're going to move forward. That will be another assignment. And then, of course, the final assignment is due Tuesday, March 19th. And that's the day of it's the time slot that the registrar has designated for our class. So it's going to be due at the end of our designated time slot, 10:30 p.m. We'll go over more of the requirements of this final project itself. But again, just know that you can either collaborate together on extending a longer paper, on making an audio recording that could be shared, that is a podcast, or of doing like an audio visual presentation with slides and images and your voices. I also can share some really good examples of prior student projects so you can see what other students have done before. So this basically breaks down to 100 points over the course of the quarter. The syllabus quiz is 5 points. You'll have 10 of those reading checks, those like short 2-point check-ins to do before the start of class on Canvas. Each of those are 2 points. Again, they're not long. They're just designed to help everyone really be as best prepared as possible to make the most of our class time. So there's 10 checks, they're 2 points each, that's 20 points. You have your individual paper that's on the current event or issue, that's 20 points. Then in that second portion of the class, you'll have that midterm exam at the end of that second portion, and that's 20 points. That's an in-class open book, open note exam. Then the final project is broken down into 3 parts. So you have that slide that I mentioned, that's 5 points. The proposal is 5 points. Those are easy points. You just have to kind of like do those things to get the ball rolling so that you're thinking about and getting your group together for the final project. And then the final project is 25 points. Again, due by the end of the time designated by the registrar for the final exam in 175. There's no final exam. That's just the deadline for this final project. And there's a grading scale. Okay, so communication policies. This is how to most effectively communicate with me so that I can most effectively respond to your inquiries and your questions and make sure that you know what you're doing and that we're able to move forward with the class. So I encourage everyone to come to office hours. I really like to get to know students and to talk through the content, of course. It's stuff that I'm very interested in. So I'm always happy to talk about what we're talking about, reading, what my lectures are about in class, especially when you have questions. So my office hours are in person, drop in from 2 to 4 p.m. in Merrill 36. The best way to get in contact with me is through Canvas Messenger, though you can send email. I just know that I respond quicker to Canvas message just because I get so many emails and sometimes student emails get buried in the barrage of emails. So on Canvas Messenger, I can check at certain times and be like, oh, make sure that I'm responding to student questions. It just helps me keep everything in one place and know exactly what we're talking about because most of the course content and materials, like the readings and the assignments, are all on Canvas. Um, One thing I do recommend, though, because I teach multiple classes this quarter, is to put in the subject line LALS 163 or just 163 or Amazon and then your question, just because then it just makes it more efficient for me, or I'll be able to respond more effectively to your question because I'll know exactly which class you're talking about, which assignment in which class. Sometimes if you don't have that, then it means a back and forth. And I ask, okay, well, what class are you in? What which assignment, like that. So it really, it seems like a small thing, but it actually means that you'll get a response faster if you just kind of give me that little signal when you send your question or your message. Also, some of you are in multiple classes of mine, so that also helps me keep track of which class you're actually talking about when you send a question. I do expect typical conventional forms of address in even on Canvas message or on email. So write "Dear Professor Perez" and respond with a conventional valediction like "sincerely" or "cordially" or "thank you" or what have you. So you'll get feedback from me through the speed grader function on Canvas, particularly through a grading rubric, especially your written assignments like your current event analysis. So you'll have access to the rubric before you submit it. And then after I grade it, you'll see based on the rubric what you scored in each of the constitutive like grading criteria for that particular assignment. So if you need help finding that rubric and seeing that, there's some links there in the syllabus. I'm not going to go through course policies in this video, but these policies are adapted from the UCSC Teaching and Learning Center's recommendations. I do encourage you to go through them, though, so you know what my policies are with regard to academic integrity. Maybe one in particular to take note of because it's newer is that I do prohibit using generative AI like ChatGPT to complete course assignments. I can talk more about why I have that policy if that's something that you're interested in, but I am more interested in what you all are individually and as a group able to come up with and not what AI is. So we'll go through the policies and that will eventually just lead us to the course schedule. Again, I'm not going to go over this day by day, but do take a look at it now so you kind of know what to expect. And this will all be reproduced as well on Canvas. So you'll have the links and you'll have the readings on Canvas to download, and of course the reading checks. But it is important to look at this schedule, so you know when a reading check is coming up because that is going to be completed before the start of class. First week, actually pretty low key. We're just doing an overview of the syllabus. If you join the class late, of course, you're viewing this video now because you missed that first day. And then on Wednesday this week, we are just all you have to do to prepare for class is watch a few of these videos. So, like I said, the main thing that I want to get across this final moment of the course schedule is just to see how it's divided into 3 sections. So our first section is about context, and that's going to be where we're going to be learning a little bit more about the history of the Amazon, how it came to be known as what we know it today, and the experience of colonialism and what impact that has had over the course of the past few centuries in the region. We're also watching a film and there will be lectures. So that will basically bring us to the end of January, this first section of contexts. Your current event analysis will be due January 31st. And by then, we've moved and transitioned into our second section part, which is called Relations. This is going to be the section of the course where we're really going to look at what some of the most important concepts and ideas in terms of social theory that have emerged through the anthropological study or engagement with the lives and experiences of Indigenous Amazonians. So we're going to look at what some of these concepts have been, what is unique and particular about cultures in the Amazon. We're going to be talking about things like shamanism. We're going to be talking about an idea called perspectivism. We're going to think about the significance of dreaming, what it means to be a person in Native Amazonian society. So these are a section of really key important texts for understanding the Amazon and social theory. And it is this block of readings in this relations section that are going to be what the midterm will be covering. So again, we'll get through all of that, and then we're going to have the midterm or the in-class exam on the second part on Wednesday, February 21st. And it's going to cover these readings that are listed there, as well as one of the films that we're watching, Embrace of the Serpent. Then our final section is going to be looking more at contemporary issues regarding extraction. And the issue that we're going to be most attentive to, we're focusing on, is, of course, petroleum or oil. And that's when we're going to start reading our required text, Michael Chapek's Life in Oil. We'll go through this book. We're going to think about some other macroeconomic circumstances that have led to contemporary formations of extractive enterprises around oil, around timber, around gold in the region. And this is also when you're really going to be working on that collaborative final project. So over the course of this third section, we're going to be reading Life in Oil, and we're going to be spending class time in your groups, thinking about how you're going to make progress on and making progress on that final paper. So that's or final project that will lead us through the end of the quarter, and then your final projects, whether it's the paper, the podcast, or the video, will be due Tuesday, March 19th by 10:30 p.m. So again, do not hesitate to get in touch if you have any questions about the syllabus, about course policy, about course requirements, and I'm looking forward to our quarter together.